Hey everybody, what's happening around here? I'm Tommy and you are on the lifeboat. We're doing a little Nightyard, people. This is my friend Russ. Russ, how are you doing?
It's good.
He's got Lily with him, people.
Yep. My bodyguard.
Lily. Yeah. She's a stone cold killer. You can tell by looking at her. That's a dog that needs to be defending and guarding something.
Right.
Mischief Managed, good to see you. Megan, how are you? Glad you're here. Muffin Cooper, not to be confused with Charlie Muffin. Jane Aldrich, what's happening? Roberta, good to see you. Catherine J. Muffin Cooper, love that. Really do love that. Nurse practitioner, PhD. Smart student nurse topics. You know, that's probably the first time I've ever read her entire name. Great. Good to see you. Glad that you're here. Charlie Muffins, Kristen Melinda. We're going to have a crew. Allison Metcalf Palumbo, what's happening? West Coast Fancy Nancy. People, if you got questions, get them ready. You know how we do it. You know how we do it. Put some cues up there, and we will get those babies answered. Kestrel, how are you? Kristen Melinda. Snake. Debbie Blair. Cookie Brightwell. And from Massachusetts. Just Jones here. James, what's happening? James, you're on fire. James hasn't missed one in a while. Martha, good to see you. Deadhead. Galen, how are you? Hey, B. Darkly Moon. I don't like Darkly. Hang on, Darkly Moon. The end of musing is here. Sweet Liberty, Brown Spotted Eagle. Whine a little bit more. Woohoo! Nightyard, yes,
I know, right?
Yep, no getting around it. Donna, how are you, Donna? AJ Speaks is here. Rick Spicer, this is going to be a good one. I can tell. Goosebumps 801, how are you? Lynn Sanity is in the house. Hello, Diane. Good to see you. Yeah, you know what? It's fun. It's fun doing these. This is always a hell of a lot of fun for me. Tony Hillman, what's happening? This is always a lot of fun. We can let our hair down.
Sort of.
Not a lot of hair to be like
right,
that.
Right.
That ship sailed a long time ago. Really. Snake, if my opinion, and I'll run it by Russ as well, but my opinion on how long Diddy's going to last. Not very long. Like in general population, he's not going to do well. He's going to get taxed and bad things are going to happen to him. Whether or not he will survive solitary confinement or whether he'll start going back crap crazy after that, because a lot of people don't do very well in solitary. No. I mean, that's just one of those things that's a truth. Most people, the vast majority of people do really, really poorly in solitary confinement. I personally loved it.
Yeah. It had its pluses and negatives, but it's just quiet, you know. Sometimes you get a lot of older cats in there that just want to relax. You're going to shut up, read a book.
Yeah, right. I was always happy when the population was older people. Could not stand having youngsters. Like when I was in the SHMU, the special management, you know, when you got through the first phase. The guy that I was with, he had been there twice as long and he left. So they had to bring me a cellmate, and you can refuse him, right? When they bring him up, you're like, what is he, 19? Yeah. No way in hell, dude. I got this much time into this program. I'm not starting from scratch because I'll end up punching this kid or he'll end up punching me. Yep. It's just not going to work. Question, Russ. How are you feeling after those peanuts of terror? We were just talking about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those peanuts ain't no joke.
Those peanuts are no joke. I was telling him one of the worst beatdowns I ever had in my life, I do not think was even remotely as bad as the tube of terror peanuts.
No.
Hello, Lisa Trimble. Lisa Trimble, sleep well. I hope you had a good weekend. Look forward to talking to you this week. Boy, she's been going through it. You know, a lot of people, thoughts and prayers to everybody that was were on the eastern seaboard when the storm came in and just, pummeled us. You know, there's a lot of people that are still really bumming. Lisa Trimble is a longtime crew member of the boat, and Lisa unfortunately has no internet. She's roughing it on her phone.
Wow. My heart goes out to those people, man. They're going through a lot.
Yeah, no question. What do you think, Russ? Do you think if Diddy was in a special housing unit, people will press him? Like if right now he's in special housing, but there's not much chance of anybody getting at him. What they can do is yell at him. They can make his life freaking miserable. I promise you. Yeah. And there's a lot of other foul things that guys can do. Yeah, there's some really gross things that inmates can do to get at one another, but they're not going to be able to really press up on him until he gets in general pop.
Right. I
And
mean, if he makes it,
well, he's going to get to some kind of population if he doesn't get Epsteined, right?
Yeah.
If he doesn't get Epsteined, he's going to hit some kind of population. I mean, it's not going to be. He could get ADX, no joke. He could end up with enough yard points to get ADX for the first 5 years or whatever. And if he goes from where he's at to the ADX, write him off. Honestly, that would be the end of him. Yeah, that place.
I don't know how it would be with the feds. You know better than I do, but I mean, he wouldn't make it.
Well, his points are high enough, right? His points are going to be high enough. If he's convicted of everything he's alleged to do, he could have high enough yard points where they would just say, well, and he's so high profile, they could be worried about him trying to retaliate or whatever. They'll send him to the ADX to cut his communication off for people. Get one phone call a month. It's where El Chapo is, right? For real, El Chapo.
Yeah. I don't think his crimes would necessarily warrant seclusion, but I think just because of his status and his notoriety, he's going to be a victim either way.
Yeah, exactly. And they're going to look at him as a paycheck. I mean, you can no longer work, taking care of your family. There are people in prison, Russ will tell you that are paying rent and everything else for their family from the dirt they're doing inside.
Right.
Kestrel says, do they still have physical books in the Persino, or is it all digital now? In the feds, everything you're reading is going to be made of paper.
State too.
Yeah. There are places now that are starting to get tablets in. Blows my mind. Honest to God, it blows my mind. None of that technology was in there when they were talking about it. In the feds, they weren't talking about giving us tablets, but they were talking about state people getting it. The one thing that they were talking about was the ability to visit your family on a computer from your unit.
Right.
And I tell you something, that's fist fights waiting to happen, man.
Yeah,
that's bad fist fights waiting to happen. People are going to walk by.
Oh yeah,
man. The perception that someone is looking for a split second too long at your kid or your wife, and it's oh man, I'm telling you that you see fist fights in visiting.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Often it's really an incredible place.
I've seen plenty of people get hit after a visit. But when I was in, you could have the 3-day visits, the conjugals.
You know what? Rub that in. I have never, no place I've ever been. No, this is funny. I had a friend and I said, I was doing a show and I said, oh man, I said, nowhere I've ever been had conjugal visits. And the guy goes, I beg to differ.
Yeah.
He says, that last yard you were on, he said, from what I understand, there were both boys and girls on that yard.
Oh, really?
To be honest, well, there were people that were certainly in the process of turning into one. And I think they were having conjugal visits all over the place, if you want to know the truth. I only had to do 5 months there. They ship you for the last 6 months so that you're closer to home. And that's just part of the policy. So the closest FCI to where I was at was Sheridan. And the guys that I was with were like, if you go to Sheridan and you walk that yard, you can't ever walk another yard in the feds. And I was like, well, why not? And he's like, really? No, there are weirdos on that yard. He's like, it's not, they're like, the people who are there are there eating in the same chow hall as weirdos or whatever. And in the feds, that can end your career. And I looked at the dude and I had known him a while. He's a shot caller. And he looked at me. I go, oh yeah, I'll punch someone in the face just as soon as I get in there for you. And I kind of got that little grin. And he goes, yeah, I'm sure you will. I'm sure you're gonna hit somebody. Tony Hooter, good to see you. Hey, I'll be honest. I just wanted to go home, man. 5 months. You know what I mean? I just wanted to go home. I said,
they don't do that in the state. They don't send you closer to home in the state. They just
that's because you're there's no chance you're 2,000 miles away from home.
No,
you know what I mean?
Over a certain mileage, they do that, right?
Yeah,
I mean in feds they do it.
Yeah, in the fed too. Part of the policy in the feds is that they will get you to the closest prison possible. They're supposed to do that early on, but they've changed the rules to where they have to do it for the last 6 months. Because if not, people can't come and see you. You can't set anything up. It gets to be really, especially like if you're in Lewisburg, Honest to God, if you're in Lewisburg, and at the time I'm living in Reno, you're like 3,000 some odd miles away. You know, we did this stupid thing in the SMU because you're locked down 24/7, right?
Yeah, I had to parole straight to Indiana when I got out. So that's 2,500 miles. So they
Did
didn't
you do it
send me
on a
anywhere.
bus?
They put me right on a bus.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Oh
get
man,
out
that's
after.
awful.
Yeah, get out of the SHU, and I go back to yard. I'm at the yard for about 2 weeks, and then they call my name for release and just take me to the bus station. So I sat on the bus for like 4 days.
No way.
Yep.
You didn't buy any you didn't buy any contraband at that first store, did you, Russ?
No,
No.
I could have had lots of that at the front gate. If I'd have just called my uncle and told him to pick me up, it'd have been over.
When we were in the SMU, thank you so much, Muffin Cooper. I really appreciate the support. I really do. In the SMU, I was on J Block, second floor, and the believe it or not, the cells are massive. It used to be the mafia floor, right? These things you can take 5 steps from corner to corner, right? These things are so big that when you walk in, you're like, what the hell? They could throw a couple of other bunks in there, you know, because of the size. But guys started to figure out how far you are from home, and then you figure out how many times you got to walk back and forth. Right, and everyone's like, yeah, let's do this. I'm like, screw you guys. You know what I mean? I know I'm walking farther than anybody. And we actually had a guy from Alaska that was like, yeah, I don't think so. Allison Metcalf Palumbo says, I am terribly claustrophobic. Can't go into a room with a low ceiling or one with only one door in and out that is narrow or short. Panic attack ensues. Prison would take you off the planet.
Not break the law.
Solid piece of advice would be maybe avoid the felonies, especially big ones. But
yeah, right.
I'll tell you this: I'm claustrophobic. I'm not kidding. I really am claustrophobic. But the rooms in there, I remember freaking out the first couple of times. Like when they first put you in there, you're like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, but what am I going to do?
You either go insane, or you figure out little games that you can play with your mind where you can get through it. It is hard. How many times have you seen somebody completely lose it? Right? I mean, it happens.
Oh man, people. Probably dozens.
Yeah,
guys
when
just
people
give up.
Yeah, they go off the rail, start saying incredibly stupid stuff, start screaming at the top of their lungs. I was telling my brother Johnny about this today. The last place I was at, guys, there were a lot of K2 smokers, synthetic cannabinoids, which really are a lot more like PCP than they are like cannabinoids. They're really, really nasty. But there were people freaking out on those. And I watched guys that were just sobbing, asking for their mother, like some of the craziest stuff in the world.
Oh, yeah.
The ADX, Deadhead, is the Administrative Detention Prison in Colorado. Hey, Tampa B man. Cricket, good to see you. What's up, 7th? It is a facility for people like El Chapo. It's a facility for people that they don't want communicating much with the outside. So you get one phone call a month, right? And you're in a single cell and there's nothing in the cell, literally nothing, except the television coming out of the ceiling. In other words, the bed is made of concrete and it just sits up about 4 feet off the floor. The desk is made of concrete, comes out of the wall. You sit on a little concrete pad that's directly below it. It looks like a thimble. Man, it's miserable. And I'll be honest, I've known a lot of people that went to ADX. I probably, because if you're at a USP, especially if you're across the street, if somebody's points dropped, they took them right to Florence. Well, that's where I was. So I met a bunch of people that went through that prison, and I promise you, man, I didn't know what they were like before, but they either only put weird people in there or that place just twists minds. I mean, I knew some
level. What level was ADX? What level was ADX? Was it a higher level, or was Florence a higher level, or what?
Oh, it's off the hook. It's the highest custody level. It's when your yard points take you past USP, or if you get into a USP and you screw up, you go to the special management unit. At the special management unit, if you start stabbing people, a lot of them, or if you happen to stab one who's wearing a uniform, they're taking you straight to the ADX. That guy that bit the dude's nose off went straight to the ADX, and they will drop you in there and go, see you in 9 years. Right?
Yeah,
for real. And they will leave it full, like, the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. He's been in ADX since the day they put him in the feds.
Damn.
Yeah. Goodness,
Yeah,
man.
they do the same thing as like Corcoran, or I don't know what they've got going now, but like Corcoran was the hit when you got put in that level. That was
Right?
like level 4, level 5, Folsom, Soledad,
Yep.
some of those. I don't
Pelican
know what they
Bay.
built late. Yeah, Pelican Bay, they built that, but they've also got a 1 yard on there. So I mean, at level 1, that's outside. I think they've got a level 1. I don't really
Well,
remember.
well, where the ADX is, they've got from you can walk around in a camp all the way up to the ADX in a complex. They've got FCIs, they've got camps, they've got everything. It's what they call a United States prison complex, right?
Okay.
You got prisons, you got FCIs, you got USPs, and you got camps. If you got all of them in one place, you got a complex. When someone gets released from prison, how do they get back on their feet with a felony on their record? Getting a job, signing a lease. Holy hell, you picked a good subject. Hey,
Yeah.
Russ, you want to take a shot at this one?
Yeah. It actually took me a long time because after I got out, they kicked me out of California. They didn't even want me there. They transferred my parole and everything. And then I came out here and started messing up because that's the only thing I knew. I hadn't been here in, 30 years. So I kept,
You go back to what you know.
yep, and making phone calls. And every time I would get a phone call, and they caught me up here too. So it's probably taken me, what, 2014, 15, 2015 to now. Because after 7 years, they work,
Right.
going to work, they don't check 7 years, beyond 7 years.
That's it. That's right. If you could stay out 7 years, you're good to go. They don't run that back.
Don't matter. Yeah. Tickets don't matter. Just don't do any felonies.
You definitely want to avoid felonies. Honestly, if you're in the federal system, there are places and things that you're never going to be able to do, and there are places where, depending on your crime, me and airports are really a bad. I mean, if they're randomly searching people's luggage as you're going through, my name has got to be random. You know what I'm talking about? I swear to God, every single time I go through, I'll be like, see that silver case right there? They're searching it. They're taking that baby apart. I'm getting walked over. I'm going to get pat searched. And I never got caught smuggling drugs or doing anything like that. But I swear to you, man, I get treated like, I'm packing every single time I go to an airport. Megan Lowe, thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate you. You guys are awesome. Kristen Melinda. Oh, we got back-to-backs here. Hold on. What happens if you have terminal cancer? Do you get chemo? Absolutely, Galen.
Yeah.
Unless you don't want to, right? In the Fed system, you can tap out. They can't force you to go and get treatments. And in fact, that's what landed me on that unalive watch that I talked about, where I was there an entire month. They were trying to ship me off to a medical yard because of something I had going on with my brain. And there was no way in hell, the cerebral infarction and all the stuff I told you guys about. No way in hell I was going to I don't know anybody that ever came back from these places. And I'm like, I'm not going, man. I'm not going.
Oh, yeah.
But they cannot force you. They can make your life miserable, but you got to sign that transfer to go to that kind of yard. What kind of games do you use to deal with claustrophobia? I may need them. Should I ever get stuck in an elevator? I'll be honest. For me, I spent a lot of time in the beginning talking to myself. You know what I mean? For real. Especially in solitary, right? I full on long conversations. I don't know if you've ever been to my Instagram page, but if you look at some of the reels on my Instagram page, I'm claustrophobic, right? To get a job that I got on the street, because when I got out of prison, the only job I could get, I went in with a friend of mine from prison. We both did it together. We were living in the halfway house, and they said, "Are you afraid of heights?" And I went, "Not at all, man. Jumped out of planes. You got nothing to worry about." And the guy I was with was a black dude. He goes, No, I'm cool. No problem. He goes, "How about small places?" And I went, No, I'm all right. I could do small places. And the black dude's like, "Yeah, I can do small places." As soon as he left the room, I'm like, "Dude, I don't like small places." He goes, "I ain't going up on anything high." He's like, "I'm not going up on any heights." He's like, "We can work this out." I had to get in a hole about that big and crawl through the belly of a ship from one side of it to the other. And you can see me do it because I'm like this. I'm talking to the camera, and it kept me sane. I'm not kidding you. In my head, there were people there, and I wasn't looking at walls that when you go and watch it, if you've never seen it, I can't stand up. It's so small that I can't stand up. And each little hole that you got to go through, you got to put one leg first and then one arm. I'm talking about and I'm talking about so small, Russ, that when you go all the way back, it would take me 27 minutes to get from the opening to the back of the boat. Right. And I'm painting anything that's got marks on it or anything that's because this is where the water is kept for like showering and stuff like that. It's not the stuff you drink, but it's the water that they use. So I got to paint all this crap, man. It sucked. But that's what I did, Chris Mullen. I spent a lot of time talking to myself. A lot of time talking to myself. Any chance that I can visit Q in prison? You know something? I can. In fact, I can now. My term, I could probably have started putting an application in like July. I have not yet because he doesn't want me to come see him. So, and I get it, man. I completely get it. I think it would be a really tough thing for him to watch me get up and walk away. I think he'd be really stoked, to spend 5 hours talking to me, but then watching me get up and leave would kill him.
With a bag full of quarters.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly. It's a tough, my brother, said, I can't look at you in a cage, man.
Yeah.
Like he just could not do it. Johnny could not freaking do it. He's like, I can't. Like
that's
just
seeing
me.
Never had my mom visit no one, I just
in a jumpsuit. Oh, especially when you're in the shoe, like the people on the yard, they crease their clothing, right? They put on their best stuff. They take their boots and shine those things until you can see a reflection in them. I mean, people get juiced about this stuff. I never really got all that. I never really got all that into it. Yeah.
Waxing there's no floor. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff, man.
Crazy. Don't get me wrong. Certain races really take care of their selves, and some guys really don't. But
well, you're absolutely right.
Who's who? But man, they look beautiful. Cells look great. They're all tucked and manicured. I mean, I couldn't do it.
Tampa B man. Just real quickly here, my niece I talked to you about just went to the hospital from that CO2 huffing thing going on. It's fried her brain. I'm not sure which CO2 thing you're talking about. If this is the people that are using the stuff that blows the dust off of keyboards, anything that's kind of compressed in a can that people are breathing in is really horrific. Usually it's hypoxia, right? It's you're starving your brain of enough oxygen where you're feeling a buzz. It's not like there's a receptor getting tripped in your brain and it's releasing a chemical or whatever. You're just starving the brain of oxygen. Instead of oxygen, you're giving it toluene or whatever. It's really, really bad. And I've watched a lot of people, sadly, that have fried their brain. Tampa B, thoughts and prayers, depending on how long they do it. There are people that come back from this. There really are. There are people that aren't perma-fried. I don't know how long your niece was doing it, but just keep. I'm not going to lie to anybody. There are people that don't come back. It has a lot to do with how long I think you've been huffing it.
Yeah.
And amusing. Weird fact. The reason I'm bringing this up too is because I got to ask Russ a question. But I've never slept better, but I discovered a few years ago I slept better on a mattress on the floor, or sometimes move rooms. Even a psych hospital, they let me. Apparently, it's a PTSD thing. Do you ever take your mattress down in your cell and put it on the floor?
Oh yeah, couple times.
Yeah, I know. I don't know anybody that hasn't done that.
Yeah, I slept on the floor when I got home without no mattress. Throw a couple blankets down, a couple pillows, just kind of.
Oh, I want to tell you something.
Because I was so used to sleeping like that.
The mattress is way too soft. When you first get out and you lay on one of those things, you're like, your back starts to hurt. I think Ted Kaczynski is dead, Kestrel. I think you're right. But he lived every day of his confinement at the ADX.
Yeah, I couldn't for a while. It kept, I'd sleep in the bed one day and a couple of days I'd sleep on the floor. Man.
Good Lord. That's got to be an old prison. My God.
Gas City? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's Gas City up here in Indiana. That's where I think it's from.
Thank
Where
you,
Bonnie's
PD,
from.
PhD nurse. I really appreciate you. Yeah, I'd be curious to know what any of the you were in Folsom, right? You were in
Yeah.
Old Folsom. That's, I mean, how nasty was that?
That was it
My
had
friends
spots.
used to talk about the water.
Oh yeah. The uh man, that was bad. But you couldn't even, brush your teeth sometimes because the water was so bad. It would just have a smell to it. Like I told
Yeah.
you before, we had those cells that had the 2-inch strips of metal woven
Yeah.
together, like I don't know, it was like that.
Yeah.
2-inch squares that you could see out, but you couldn't do anything. They were dug into rock with a door, and you had
Oh,
a
it's so
lock to it.
foul. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so foul. It
you
looks like
couldn't
a
do
dungeon.
anything. It
It looks
does.
exactly like a dungeon.
Yep.
Yeah, screw that, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's way more claustrophobic too. I
Yeah.
knew an old man. I knew a really, really old man that I did time with in Indiana, and he passed. He was in the feds. He passed while I knew him, but he was at Old Folsom. And I was talking about Lewisburg. I said, Lewisburg is so nasty. And he said, oh, man, you should have seen Old Folsom in the day. He said that water used to come out of the tap and it looked like mud. He's like, it was so gross. And we look at each other and go, how long do you think you can go without water? You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
can't drink that. He said, you learn real quick, you can drink it.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah, you can.
it's
You have to
absolutely
mix it.
true.
We called Kool-Aid Jim Jones because we had to mix it with that.
Yeah, because you never get it down.
Yep.
Those little packets, and that
Yeah.
stuff has got, you can't believe how strong those packets are. They're not sugar. They're some kind of chemical, but you could take one of those and throw it in a fish tank.
Yeah, saccharin, I think. Yeah, it was crazy. It
Or
would sink.
orange or grape. Oh, my.
Yeah. Yeah, great. That
Oh
sucks.
man, I drank a lot of that crap. And then people use it to make candy out of it. And there's nothing grosser, nothing
Or
grosser.
they made makeup.
Yeah, yeah. That's what Skittles are for.
Yeah.
That's what Skittles are for. You get a little eyeshadow, get all the colors, and I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
They get serious with that.
Yeah, they do.
Deadhead says I couldn't visit a prison now. You know what? The states and the feds are a little different. In the feds, if you're on paper, right? So when you leave prison, you got a tail. It could be a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, depending on your crime, or a lifetime. They can give you a lifetime tail so that you're on probation forever or whatever. I'm off that. I killed my paper. I'm completely, as far as the feds are concerned, I'm done. For that reason, I could then go back and visit him. But every state is a little different. Yes, you get a tax break. I don't know if it's every inmate, but they tell you in the feds how it works. And then so you can do a sales pitch, really. They kind of train you. It's one of the few things that they do. But when you take your little course on leaving, they say, if the guy says, yeah, you're a felon, you can say, yeah, but you're not going to pay any tax on me for the first year. Right. Mm-hmm. And if you want to fire me, you can grab another felon the next year. Yeah. But if I'm great, keep me around or whatever. And that's why, like the place that I worked, they only hired felons, man. They went to the halfway houses and only hired felons, and they would just turn and burn, but they're not paying any tax on any of the money. It's a huge tax break.
Yep.
This is going to be such a great answer. Did either of you ever meet anyone who pretended to be mentally ill so others would leave them alone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it would backfire on them. Because then they would get put on medication, doors in shuffle. I mean, it would hurt them.
Yeah, F around and find out, right? Mm-hmm. This is one of those games that I'll tell you what, I've seen so many people play this card for so many different reasons, right? In front of judges, where they literally took stuff like peanut butter and some other stuff and put it in their underwear. So that they could then reach down the back of their pants, pull it out, and kind of rub it on themselves in front of the judge. I swear to God. And if they get lucky, right? This is if the judge goes, you know what, this person can't stand trial, right? Obviously, this person's insane, right? And you go, oh my God, I'm safe. They take you out and they bring you to a place where you sit for 6 years talking to a counselor, right? Yep. Who finally says, you're okay. You know what? You're all right. Now you can go back and face the trial.
Yeah.
Right? You ain't going home. You're going back to face that trial. if it takes 25 years to make it so that you are able to go see that judge. So yeah, I've watched a lot of people do this for a lot of reasons. I've never seen it work once. I really haven't.
I haven't either.
I mean, no, you haven't. You would have to do it for your entire rip. Like you can pretend to be kooky while you're in county jail, but I mean, you're going to do that for 5 years or 7 years.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? That's a tough way to do prison.
I seen a guy I was in court with this guy who did that. Black guy. He said, "I'm not going to get any time." Or if he thought he was going to get time, he was going to get a couple robberies or something. He was going to get short time. Well, the judge gave him 7 years, and he made the mistake of saying to his attorney that I could do 7 years standing on my head. And the judge heard him say that, and he goes, "Well, I'll give you another 7 to get off of it."
Yeah.
Never
14. Say anything to a judge.
No.
Never say anything to a judge. I saw the same thing. Saw it in state court. Where a guy said I could do that on a crapper. I could do that on the crapper. She said, when you're done wiping, you can give me 5 more.
Yeah.
Hey, Tampa B, it occurs to me. You said CO2. If you're talking about little metal canisters, right?
That shouldn't
the guy you was talking about that they sell at gas stations. Are you talking about NO2, not CO2? You're talking about nitrous whippets? Shh.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're talking about whippets, I promise you, her dome will come back. You really got to do a lot of whippets to fry your brain. You're talking to a guy that has done. If all of the whippets that I've done were in this room, I couldn't sit in it. For real. That was real popular with the Grateful Dead to call that hippie crack. I used to sell it on tour.
I never did that.
Big tanks into balloons, $5 a balloon. Yeah, it was a great hustle. Because those 90-pound tanks had like 1,000 balloons. Yeah. It was ridiculous.
Like $20 a balloon or something.
You know, if you got the really big ones, I used to sell the $5 ones, but people would come back with their lips blue, you know, going and it drops your voice. It's like the opposite of helium, and they come back and go, "Can I get 3 more of those?" And like, come back when your lips are red again because you're looking a little frightening. Just figured out how this works. Anyway, this is a great community. I appreciate the mods. Tommy and Russ's insight. By the way, Supermax in Florence, Colorado is nearby. Oh, wow. And my clinic, I get patients from there and staff too. Wow. So I've probably gone to, right? And if not where you're at, I've been to hospitals nearby. I was at that complex, except instead of being at the ADX, I was at Florence, but I was at the Florence Max, not the Florence Supermax, which honestly, when you get to that level, they're making you miserable to the point where they really go out of their way. Although I was on a lockdown program at that place, right? But I wasn't on a 23-and-1. This was for people who demonstrated they could do the 23-and-1 successfully for a year and a half. If you did it without screwing up for a year and a half, and if you screw up, you start over. But when you got to a year and a half, they kicked you to the next yard. So I went from Lewisburg out there, and we got out for 3 hours a day.
Really?
Big pimping.
Out. You know, at Corcoran, they let us out. I did 16 months there, almost 16 months, and they kicked me out. But that was for when I decided to talk to that guard and show him how to sleep right.
Those kind of conversations never work out.
No,
it landed me in the smooth too. Nah, it never works out, dude. You really, honestly, I would say you really got to be dumb to do that, but I did it. So I probably shouldn't say that. Thank you so much for the support, PhD. What's that?
You can be surprised how you can get beat up by a phone book.
Oh my God. And it doesn't leave a mark. Yeah. Nope. If you think he's kidding, I don't know an inmate. I don't know an inmate over the age of about 45 that can't tell you a story about that. Guaranteed, man. They would come in and beat the bark off you while you're handcuffed with 2, 3 of them with phone books, the big ones. They just come in and tag you and catch you side of the head. Anywhere they catch you, doesn't leave marks, but it hurts you, man.
That cell bum rush crew is no fun either.
Did you know any high profile mobsters?
No, not in the state.
Yeah, they probably most of them probably do end up in the feds. I did time with a bunch of them, and I did time with a bunch of them whose names you'd recognize. Honestly, the feds is usually there's almost one on every yard.
Oh yeah,
it's just one of those things, and they always play bocce. So if you're into bocce, you probably they call it mafia marbles in prison.
Pinochle was big in California.
Oh yeah, I would never ever play pinochle. Forget it, dude. You know the number of people I've seen stabbed over that game, and I wanted to learn,
Oh man.
but I was in the feds probably 2 months, and I had seen 3 stabbings, and
Yeah.
every one of them over
Game.
pinochle. Yeah, guys strapping up, suiting up. I'm like, what do you call them?
Isn't
Something?
that what a
No,
National
this is about
Geographic
cards.
on? Yeah.
Yeah, body armor. Yeah, tape this around me, dog. Tape this
Yeah.
around me.
We always kept magazines in the house.
Yeah. No, you can use air in a can to clean your keyboards. What you don't want to do is huff it into your mouth like you're inhaling a cigarette. That's what kids were doing, and it's really, really bad for your brain.
They're doing that with that anhydrous, gas out here that farmers use. Then that stuff will stop your car
Yeah.
just if it blows through it.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. No way.
No, I'm good. I've had some of the best visits in the shoe. They forget that he's in there, and it was much more private than a visiting room. Wow.
Mhm.
See, it doesn't work like that in the feds. What they do is all of the shoe people visit on Monday, right? And depending on how bad you piss them off, they might put a piece of glass between you. Like if they're really mad, you're not gonna get to hang out with your family member or your visitor. I screwed up and got him really angry. Same thing you did. I smacked an officer, and for the rest of that rip, I mean, years down the line, when I had done everything right for a long time, yeah, they still weren't wanting to have anything to do with me looking face to face at somebody. They take that crap seriously.
I had about 6 years of fun with that one. Where was this? Where did she have her best visit at? What?
It's a great question. Yeah, Jen, where was that? Lynn, can we get some ones for Linsanity? Thoughts and prayers for Linsanity's friend Tarja, please. Absolutely.
Yep.
Great question. Can you vote if you are a felon? Well, if you're a federal felon, you can.
Yeah. State, you can too if you're off probation. Even
once you're
I
off,
heard now. Yeah, I heard now you can.
Yeah, once you're off paper, you can vote. There was a time when you couldn't. Right. This was this is something that the First Step Act and some other things made it easier for inmates. They were trying to make it so that people could vote from inside. They gave everybody inside the bonus, the stimulus checks, which is incredible to me.
That's crazy.
I would say honestly, I probably did time with at least a dozen of them. The highest of which was the top of the food chain, the guy that look up Joe Waverly. Look up Joe Waverly. That's his mob name. His real name was Joel Casey. Look up that dude and read about him. And that fool and I spent time together. He was a really good dude, man. Honestly, one of my favorite people from doing time. Maybe I should try Skittles instead of store makeup, says Kathy. You know what? It's an art. It's definitely
Yeah. Mainly only guys do it, but if you want to try it, go right ahead.
Curious, were you all in GP and did you all go to the yard? How often? Daily? You want to go first on that one, Russ?
Yeah, I was in level 3, 4, and I was in general pop. I was never in a sensitive needs yard or had any drama like that. And we go to there'd be yard call every hour. You could go out and in and out, every hour up until about 9 o'clock.
Nightyard.
Yeah, Nightyard.
Yep. So in the feds, you can go outside they have moves, but they're not every hour. It's usually they'll have 2 or 3 moves in the morning. So even though there's like 5 hours, there's only like 3. So if you go outside and it's cold, they want to make you stay out there for like 3 hours before you can go back in. They're trying to discourage people from going out in the winter to deal drugs with people from other units. So if you got to go out there and get your fix, they're going to make you stand out there and freeze your butt off for 3 hours to get it. And you see guys out there trying to fix in the little bathroom. It's just a disgusting.
Yeah,
I'm glad
we had to carry blankets out with us because out there this just open yard, open metal on the weight pile.
You stick to it.
Yep, it's 2 inches. It burn you. You could do an egg on the concrete. it
Yeah.
just be so bad.
Take your skin off. Well, I was in Phoenix and we had a weight pile in Phoenix, and it was, I mean, yeah, Phoenix got so hot that, I mean, honestly, every day when we would go out to yard in Phoenix in the morning, when we'd go out, the guy would get on the mic and he'd go, "Hey, geniuses, bring some water with you. You're in the effing desert."
Right.
Every morning for yard call. And inevitably there'd be some dude out there that wasn't drinking that would just fall over. You know, there was, you got heat stroke there all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, I was in GP until I smacked a cop. That was my first sentence. I did my whole sentence on, that was a state deal. I did GP the whole sentence. I got thrown into a, you could call it GP, but it's a punishment unit, and the feds, they don't consider that being in general population. It's considered honorable, but you're not walking. You're not interacting a whole lot unless, you're in the cages. But
Right.
But every place else I've always been on GP. I've never had to deal with any of that either. And in the feds, I don't know how it is in the state, but in the feds, you have to take this piece of paper and you got to write down on it, "Hey, I need your help." And then they come in and say, "All right, tell me all the dirt you know about everybody in this unit and in this prison and what they're doing." They make you do this debriefing thing. And everywhere you go for the rest of the time that you're in, you have to produce your lockup orders. And they'll say, "So what did you do at the last yard to get in trouble?" You're like, "I got in a fist fight, or I got caught making pruno." "Great. Let me see your lockup order."
Mm-hmm.
And it'll say on it, "You got in a fist fight. It was a series 105. What you pled? Did you talk about it?" And man, you got to keister that. When you're in the hole, you got to grab that thing. Unless you want to have 5 or 6 no fun days while you wait for your paperwork to get there, you should just take that lockup order with you everywhere you go. Tip 420 says, "Used to buy whippets at dead shows." Yeah, we may have met. Porn shop had them with crackers. See, yeah, we're talking about whippets. The cracker was this thing that you screw on, and there was a pin at one side that would, and then that would blow up into a balloon. Yeah, right. That would blow up into a balloon.
Did it have a little fold out, straw? Or was it straight through?
No, yeah. You can go one of two ways. The one that I had didn't have the straw. You just rolled it over on the end, and it would get so cold from cracking it that after about 10, you had to replace the balloon because they'd start to. No, it does not. Nitrous will show up. If it's nitrous that she's doing, right, they would have to be looking for nitrous oxide, right? It's not going to be on a panel test. There's no freaking way. Now, if they went in looking to see if she had done nitrous, I guarantee you they could tell. But they're not looking. No one's, they're not worried about people with whippet habits. I guarantee you that's not something that they're super concerned about. And I had a 34 panel test in the feds, and it did not have nitrous oxide. Mary Gonzalez says, I wouldn't have to pretend I'm mentally ill. Nobody in there really has to pretend that they're mentally ill. Altogether, I did about 13 years. I am Cordy.
Somebody asked that too. They asked how long have we been out? I've been out since 2003, after all my time. But that was the 3 years here and then 10 years out in California. So you've been out, whole 4 years? 4.
Been out since I got out. Well, yeah, going on 5 now. Going on 5.
Okay.
I always wondered is there a way to do whippets in a go-kart? Technically, yeah. I mean, I'm never encourage anything like that. But if you ever watch the Three Stooges, when they take that seltzer bottle and they go like this and squirt it into the guy's eye. Well, that propellant that's making that stuff squirt out is a whippet. So people buy those things and don't put water in them, right? And those things just fill out. You can take that with you, and there's a little squeezer, and it's got a mouthpiece on it. And they are, it's not ideal, people. I'm telling you right now not to do this. You understand? Truthfully, don't do it. You're way better off not.
Right.
Perry Young says, "I'm 60 and 130 pounds. If I have to use insanity to scare someone off, you bet your ass I am." It's not I'm telling you, it's not an easy thing to do, because not only do you have to BS the inmates, but if you're acting bat crap crazy, well, staff is going to want to talk to you. right? And if you really want to be protected, then you're going to have to go what they call JCAT. And I promise you, what you got to do to be category J, I don't think you want to endure that, right? That's arts and crafts, right? Making neat things with your feces or painting the wall with it.
Lollipop
right?
sticks.
I'm telling you, dude, some really, really ugly stuff that people do to try to save themselves.
Right.
Al Capone came through Atlanta on his way to Alcatraz. Everybody came through Atlanta on the Atlanta's a big hub for the feds, right?
Mhm.
There's Oklahoma and there's Atlanta, and you're going through one or the
That's
other.
central, you know.
Yeah, I
Chicago was
spent
like that now too.
Yeah. Yep. I spent a crap load of time in the Atlanta pen, and I was never in the Atlanta pen. Right? It's kind of like Oklahoma City. I spent a ton of time in Oklahoma City, but I've never done time in Oklahoma. What happens is you get to the transfer center, and it might take 3 weeks, right, for your next. So you're sitting in that transfer center for 3 weeks, and I got in a lot of trouble. And every time I got on Con Air, I had to go back through either Atlanta, and sometimes you had to hit both. You go from Oklahoma, they take you to Atlanta. You just go, oh, you got to be kidding. 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks.
Yeah, everybody's coming into like that central with everything. I mean, you could get anything there, couldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Atlanta, yeah. If you wanted to buy anything on planet Earth, you could buy it in. I'm not kidding. I've never seen anything like it. It creeped me out when the inmates come to walk around and brooming and stuff. These guys that got sneakers on, right, wearing like basketball shoes. That I promise you, there's no place in the BOP, right? Yeah. These things are like $900, right? And you're looking at them going, how in hell are they wearing this stuff, right? Gold chains, right? I mean, looking like they're on the street, and the cops coming up going, hey, are you? He goes, did you want the real stuff or the little orange strips? I'm like, did he just ask me if I wanted tar or Suboxone? I'm looking at my cellmate going, what the hell just happened? He goes, yeah, if you got the money. Yeah. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, man.
Yeah, the old prison wallet.
Yeah, well, I mean, even if you're not doing it, you might be tempted to take a little to the next yard with you. Stuff worth a fortune.
Yes, it is.
Here's one for you, Russ. Question: do you know what date you're getting out when you go in, or is it just an estimate? Having good behavior.
They'll say, yeah, they tell you a date, you know, with your good time. Like back when I was in, you did 50%, so you did half your time. But they would give you a EPRD, is what it's called, earliest possible release date.
Right.
And they would tell you, but no, that went out the window.
It's never gonna happen. Right? You go in. When I went into the state, the one time it happened to me was when I went in the state, I actually beat the date that they gave me because weird stuff happened and I got extra meritorious credit for saving a dude's life, straight up. And they kicked me out a little bit early. But every other rip I've done, you go in and they say, here's your out date, right? And you start doing math. If I get the halfway house and they give me a year a halfway house, right? You have every scenario. Yeah, every scenario in the world is in your head. But you kind of know the time frame. And then somebody swings at you, you punch him in the face, and you move 3 months out, right? You get in another fight, you move 3 months out.
Yeah.
I just got a, believe it or not, this just in kind of a moment. I just found out that a guy that I did time with, right, who's kind of famous as hell, speaking of gangsters, got out 2 days ago. Big Meech.
Really? Back on this
Big Meech walked 2 days ago.
Sweet.
And yeah, congratulations, man. Like I said, me and that dude chased each other around. I went from we went to the both smooths. We hit both smooths together, and then he ended up at the same yard I was at the when I was at my go home yard. So was he.
Man, that would be great. You get a hold of him. Believe that?
Yeah, right. I'd love to have Meech on here. We could definitely reminisce about a lot of yards. I think, he wasn't the guy I kicked it with. He was the opposite race, but we hit every single yard together. Literally every.
I mean,
I'll tell you what. Yeah. We did them. I hit both smooths at the same time. We were on the same bus, Con Air. We did all of it together. In fact, we went through the transfer center at the same time. And I'll tell you something. That's a stone cold killer, right? He's the real deal. And you should have seen how quiet he got when we pulled up to Lewisburg. Ain't nobody in that. Nobody made a sound.
Look at this place.
Nobody made a sound. He had a homeboy on the bus that was from Florida who had dreads to his ankles. I ain't playing, to his ankles, dreadlocks. And a guy stepped on two of them as the guy was getting off the bus. Yanked two of them out of his head. I felt really bad for the dude. It looked like it hurt viciously. How likely is it that a correction officer is selling his narcotic meds to inmates? Just curious. Well,
how likely, or
yeah,
how you know?
Right. Here's the thing. Yeah, exactly. Well, what's he driving these days? He didn't just get a new speedboat, did he? This is what I say all the time, right? Over the time that I was down, I must have seen thousands, right? Honest to God, I must have seen thousands of corrections officers in all the different prisons and all the different transfers and all that. And I bet you 9 out of 10 of them, right, are the most stand-up cats that they honestly treat you like you wish someone would treat you, and you'd take them through a door with you if you had to go fight somebody, right? Like they're just solid people, and they happen to be on the other side of the law from you, but they treat you like you're a solid person as well, if you are a solid person, right? But that 10%, will F it up for the rest of them because they do so much damage. If you got a crooked, or like a real crooked one, man, you wouldn't believe how bad a yard gets.
They work. I know the guys that would just work 10 years and do whatever they could. You know?
Yeah, never work again. There's been crazy cases. I have a policy concerning mentioning the fellas' organizations and clubs on my channel, right?
Yes.
I got respect for everybody, and I'm never talking about anybody's club here, right? But there was a club that they're not white or black, but this organization had someone from high school that they said, you're going to be a cop, and you're going to be, a corrections officer. We're putting you into the system. Like, this dude was a card carrying member of a street and prison gang, and was working in the BOP.
There's lots more of those.
Yeah. Yep, that happens. There are card carrying gangbangers that have badges, and they can F up an entire institution. Yep. Thank you so much, by the way. I really appreciate that. Russ and Tommy, were you careful about what you told your family on the outside after my son witnessed an inmate taking out a CO and him getting killed by the others? I was out. Yeah, I bet. That's not something that any inmate's going to be talking about on the telephone. If he's sharp, hats off to your boy.
Yeah. In the state,
hats off to your boy.
It goes, you are being recorded while you're on the phone. You don't do that.
Absolutely. In the feds, when you first put it up, it says, and you hear it, you dial the number, then your person picks up and it says, this call is from a federal institution. It's prepaid. You're not going to be paid for this, but we're recording it. And then every 3 minutes, her voice comes on and says it again. Yeah. This call is being recorded and monitored. And they're not joking, right? In the feds, this is no lie. There's somebody listening to your call, right? Yeah. And they're recording it because I have screwed up. I have screwed up so many times in the feds on the telephone, and you don't get done with your phone call.
Right.
Promise you, you do not get done with your phone call. And once I got called into FIS, and I swear to you, the stuff I was talking about on the telephone had nothing to do with anything. Right? I hit the guy. I was trying to talk dirty. Honestly, so I was trying to say something dirty to a woman that I was with at the time, with somebody on either side of me, right? And I was like, so I'm trying to talk in code, and they're like, boom. A minute in, they're grabbing my shoulder. I'm like, what? He's like, what are you trying to get smuggled in here? I'm like, oh, bro, you missed that. Go back and listen to that a couple of more times. I promise you it'll make sense to you. Ivy's mama. Well, good to have you here.
Try playing the message real slow. You'll hear it.
Yeah, you'll know exactly what's going on. I promise you. London Voice from India. What's an honor. That's an honor. How cool is that? Is it possible to do time without joining a car? Can you just stick to yourself and keep your head down, or is it unavoidable? You are in a car, whether you want to be or not.
Mm-hmm.
It is impossible not to be. Your skin color is going to put you in a car. The state you're from is going to put you in a car. The city you're from is going to put you in a car. And then from there, if you happen to belong to any of those organizations I don't talk about, that'd be another car. And sometimes you build a little independent car, right? Where it's just going to be you and some guys that aren't gangbangers. You're going to watch each other's back or whatever. But make no mistake, you're still in a bunch of cars, right? You're still in a bunch of cars. And the funniest thing is, in the feds, there was a yard that would not allow a gang member on it. And I said,
they knew of.
Yeah, my friend was telling me this. I said that the cops stopped this, and he goes, the inmates. And I go, how's that work? And he goes, well, the whole yard, they declared it an independent yard. And if somebody comes on there, they beat the crap out of them. And I go, for what reason again? And he goes, because they can't stand gangs. I'm like, yeah, y'all are a gang. That big I for independent, you're a gang. Call it whatever you want. You got a shot caller, you're running people off the yard, you're violent. What do you think you are, man?
Yeah, you're doing what you loathe.
Yeah, I mean, for real. Muffin Cooper says, what's Drew Peterson like? You know something? I've done a couple of shows on it. He was absolutely like a shark. I'm not kidding you. Like, you look at this dude's eyes, and he's a guy I guarantee you, he bumped off more people than they thought he did. He was a very sick individual, honest to God. You'd beat the crap out of him and two guys that looked just like him. You know what I mean? Unless he had a pistol on his hip, because he was a cop for a long time. But if it was one-on-one, I promise you take him and two guys that looked just like him. By the time I met him, he was 65 and softer than hospital cotton. You know what I mean? I watched him get in two fights, and it was I almost intervened on one of them because I felt bad. But yeah, I watched the guy try to take his eye out with a metal implement, and to his credit, he managed to save his peeper. But the U.S. is like an episode of The Simpsons, says London Voice. Boy, that's hard to argue with, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is a great question. Here you go, Russ.
I think actually would be the guy who cleaned up after all the messes, like a porter.
Yeah, porter's not a bad gig.
Yeah, it could be the best or the worst because you're put in that situation. And even if you, like on lockdown, if you're a porter, you got to take care of your race.
Yeah, you're passing everything. You're risking your job at every second, but you better start. Yeah.
I remember a tube of ink got, found, but they left it on the ground, and I picked it up with a guy and put it in my sock. And what happens? There goes my shoes.
Yeah, that's
shoes, socks, everything.
Yeah, peeled.
That sucked. Yeah, it opened right up. Opened right up. I had a tattooed foot and ankle for about 6 months.
Man. And I promise you that stuff does not come out of anything. No. I made a bottle about this big. I burned set for probably 4 weeks. And then I shook this thing for a month. What did I burn it off? No, we would use hair gel, and I would just make a wick, put it in a can, and then burn it. And I had these, I would take a box of crackers, and that's what I would put on the top with a couple of holes on the bottom so that airflow could go in. And that top would catch all that crap. And I mean, I did this for so long. This project took me months, and I was going to sell them in 1 ounce bottles. And this cop came in and he finds it. And I'm just in the section where all you got to do is keep shaking it for a while. And he goes, what do we got here? And he takes the top and he starts squirting this.
Shoe polish.
Everything it hit everything it hit was trash. And you can't get new stuff. So I'd walk into the chow hall, like looking like 101 Dalmatians. Yeah, just stupid as hell, dude. And you're busted everywhere you go. The LT be like, come here. What the hell's up with your clothing? You're like, yeah, I'm stupid.
A pin was in the washer,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'm the only guy that hit it. If I was in prison today, would I do a? Well, here's the deal. If I were in prison today, it would be highly likely that all of the stuff that I'm doing on the street for some reason stopped, and I began to do crime. So more than likely what I would be doing is chasing dope. No, if it were to do all over again and I had the knowledge of what was on, yeah, I probably would. It would have been something that I think would have been fun to try to do from the inside. But yeah, I really hope I never find that out.
You're right. I don't either. You get to a certain age in prison and they kind of retire you, put you on a shelf,
Absolutely.
So I'd be
You
out of
know,
all that.
you know what's awesome? Here's a great question. You're going to love this. Cricket. This is an awesome question. It really is. This is an awesome question. Can one or both of you explain spread to me? Some mysterious foodstuffs made by inmates from commissary items. Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Russ.
You got this little sandwich you used to call a peckerwood sandwich. That would be a chocolate chip cookie between two brownies, or the honey bun with peanut butter.
Yep. Gangster spread.
Well, what we do is we get a trash bag, get about 15 or 20 soups.
Yep.
With hot water with our stingers. Throw cans of tuna, melted cheese, chopped up sausage,
yeah,
peppers, all that good stuff.
Refried beans, instant refried beans.
Yeah.
Instant taco meat, that stuff that they make out of soy. There's so much instant stuff that you can buy. And he's right. You just throw it all into a big ass trash bag. And the fellas just sit there with their hands on fire, burning, taking turns, stirring all this stuff up. And it's 25 pounds, right? By the time you're done. And then everybody has plastic bowls they buy at commissary, and you line the inside of it with a couple of tortillas, right? And then dump everything on top of it. And those things, I'm not kidding you. I got a guy coming on. You've seen him here before. His name is Diesel Therapy. I did time with him, and I can joke about it because he lost all the weight. But this fool used to crush 2 of those a day. I'm not kidding you, man. It had to be like 6,000 or 7,000 calories, and he would layer them, right? So that like there'd be 2 more, burrito stuff all the way up. It'd be like a 6-layer. Oh my God, man. Just so unbelievable. And you got crushed chips into it. Bunch of hot sauce.
Doritos. Oh yeah. You save that stuff. The package you can get from the house, you get your mom or somebody to send in.
Oh yeah. No. There's none of that. We don't get any of that crap, dude. All of those things that you hear about. Yeah, you can fill out a package and get stuff from the street. Mm-hmm. No. The feds. So how are the feds different from the state? Asks Donna. Well, the federal government has passed a bunch of crimes that they say are federal crimes. And if you happen to do one of those, and back in the day, it was bank robbery, it was kidnapping, or it was massive amounts of drugs, right? Crossing state lines. Yeah. And that was pretty much it. So they didn't need a really big system. And then they decided that if you were a felon who was in possession of a gun after you had already become a felon, that was a federal offense. And they started adding other ones, right? And then they dropped the amount of dope, right? It used to take tons of dope to hit feds. Then they said, all right, anything over 500 grams becomes a federal offense. And if you're balling, like if you're out there doing any kind of weight at all, you're moving a hell of a lot more than 500 grams.
Yeah, that's nothing.
So it's nothing. So absolutely, you're going to get really, it gets ugly.
Quick. It does. Well, that's a couple more, 1,000 grams a pound, isn't it? Or kilo?
Yeah. At least. Yeah.
Yeah. It does depend because I know meth stays wet for a while. So if you sell it wet, it's more weight.
Yeah, it's absolutely more weight. La Chameleon, good to see you. Can we get some thoughts and prayers for a beautiful man, age 35, who unalived himself last Friday in New Zealand? I hope he is at peace now. I'm just sad that it had to end like this. You know something? We've all been there. And we've all been there with people who went that route. There's probably not many channels where people could say that with confidence, but on this channel, I absolutely can say that with confidence. Everybody knows somebody. You can talk about that with prison. I never did a holiday in prison that somebody on the yard that I was on didn't take their life. Yeah. Not one. And it's a very hard thing to cope with. Thoughts and prayers with the family of your friend as well.
I've seen people just jump right off the tier.
Yeah, you know what? I've heard of that happening. Right.
Hmm.
I had a cop tell me about it, and that somebody did it at the transfer center in Oklahoma. I've never seen it. Not as a way to try to take themselves out. I saw a guy jump onto a card table because he was wasted on K2 and he broke his
Hmm.
thigh, but he wasn't trying to take himself out. He just figured it was an easy jump from where he was, which is like
Third
25 feet
tier,
off the ground.
Folsom,
Yeah,
jumped right
just
out.
dumb as hell.
Got around a
Um,
cage and went.
so I assume you on parole. There is some as UK not allowed to associate with. Oh yeah. So when I was on paper with the feds, if I was to associate with a known felon, that's a violation. I go straight back.
Hmm.
If I
Yep.
were to use an illegal substance, that's a violation. I'm going right back. There's a
Hmm.
lot of things. In fact, only once in the whole time that I was on paper did I ever do anything to get in trouble. And the kind of trouble it was just that they called me down, drug tested me, yelled at me, sort of kind of freaked out a little bit. And what happened is you call a number and they tell you the colors of the day that need to drug test, right? Like midnight rolled around. And I looked at my wife and I went, did I call today? And she's like, oh my God, well, call and see what the number is. So I dialed the number real quick. Well, it's telling me what the colors are for Wednesday, and I don't know what the colors are for Tuesday. And I sat in that room going, oh man. So I call my PO. I call my PO early the next morning, right? I'm like, hey man, I think I missed a drug test yesterday. I said, he's like, get to my office and get here quick. And I went down there and man, he's unhappy and he's yelling at me and he's like, you can piss in this cup. And I piss in it and he's like, you're clean. He goes, I'm sending you home and I'm not writing a report. And I'm like, you're not? He's like, no, because your color didn't come up yesterday. He's like, and I'll bet you $100 you called and then you just didn't remember calling. And he's like, so I'm not going to bust your chops about it.
Here's one for you. You know,
Yeah.
when you go into, you've done meth before, I assume.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, when you go to take a drug test, or if you go to pee, if you've been doing a lot of it, it's going to be straight orange, like my shirt. You know, if you're just all burning it up, the whole cup will melt out if you pee in it. But that right there was, I mean, I had a pro officer that was 6'9", black guy,
Oh
tall,
man.
huge, and I had tall windows in my house. You know, I'd been out about 4 days, and I look over and he's standing right there looking dead at me. You had to be that tall. It's like poetic,
Right.
That's what happened. And he had me get up and said the first one's free, and I said, okay, I'm glad it's free because it's going to be burning up.
Oh yeah. It's going to be radioactive.
Yeah.
I never had a probation officer that was cool that way ever, but I had an SIS officer at Victorville.
Hmm.
Every single time I was on the hot sheets, so I had to go pee once a month, and I'd walk in and he'd go, "How are you going to do?" And I'm gonna fail it colossally. Like I am gonna fail so bad. Like I 4 or 5 substances in me at this point. And he'd go, "Really?" That was the first time, and he goes, "I'm not gonna write you up, dude, just because of your honesty. You got 30 days to get clean." And the next thing I know, he's at my cell. I'm like, "There's no way it's been 30 days, dude." He's like, "No, it's been 30 days." And that went on for probably 9 months. And he never, I mean, every month I was supposed to test. And finally, one day he showed up and I actually had a bag. Like I tried to make a Wizinator,
Hmm.
right? So I had a bag inside my pants that was all set up and I was going to dump water from the inside of my boxers. Like, well, it just didn't work out the way it was
Yeah, that
supposed
did
to.
work out. You peed your
And
pants
all
that
of it,
day.
oh my God, all of it went down my pant leg. And he's standing there while you're doing it, right? And he looked at me and he goes, "Man, that is the most piss poor attempt at being a drug test I've ever seen in my life." He said, "I swear to God, I ought to fail you just for trying that." He goes, "Go get a white boy to pee for me." God, you're stupid. But he was all right, man. This is a
That's
great
cool.
question. Can you really have a true friend in prison?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yep. You
here's what
get
I
with
would
that one
say.
homeboy. Yeah, you can.
Here's what I would say. Honestly, and you may not believe this, but I'm not sure you can have a real friend any other place.
No, you can't.
I mean, honestly, because what a friend in prison is, right? Now you got homeboys, you got guys you kick it with, But your ace deuce, right? That dude that's your guy, the guy that's going to sit outside the shower while you shower, he's going to have boots on and he's going to have a weapon in his pants. And he's going to be sitting there so that if anybody tries to come in and get you at your most vulnerable moment, this dude's going to protect you. Yes. Right? That's friendship, right? And they don't, this isn't something that a person takes lightly, right? When you go, when somebody kind of does the bro hug on you and says, I got your back. It's not like people on the street that say that and then disappear.
They don't, right? Yeah, they don't understand.
And I'll tell you something else. If it's really your ace deuce, this is the perfect example of this is I had a friend and I screwed up bad. I mean, straight up, I screwed up. I was still doing dope. And for lack of a better way to put it, I stole some stuff. I fronted some stuff knowing full well I had no intention of paying it off, right? Not like a cell thief stuff, but I worked the system and it was not the right thing to do. And it was not the right race to do it with. And it caused a bunch of threatening and ugliness. And I walked into my unit. My homeboy walked in right behind me, and he wasn't supposed to be anywhere near my unit. And I said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I got to go talk to the rep." And he went up to talk to their rep. And he's like, "Man, if anything happens to my friend, I swear to God, I'm coming back in here." And he's like, "I'm bringing friends with me." You don't run into people like that on the street.
Nope. You don't.
And look, you can get burned in prison. You get guys that if you make a bad judgment call. I was really fortunate. Every guy that ever had my back had my back. I never once had anybody bail on me. Thank God, because I've had some people come in at some real bad times. I had a guy come in with a laundry bag that had 2 locks in the bottom of it. And if this dude had ever swung one of these before, I'd have been in deep trouble. But like he went to shoot this thing and it went like it stretched out, right? So it shot a good 2.5 feet by me and smacked the wall behind me. Like same with the sock. You got to stretch that thing out before you go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because if not, it's gonna, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I absolutely believe you can get some very serious friendships in there. Now I realize that probably doesn't make sense, man. Like,
for people on the street, no, it won't make sense. You know what I mean? But it's something. It's like going into war with someone. It really is, because if the only answer or only the ends to whatever the problem is going to be death. And I mean, there's no question.
If you get 2 guys together who were in the same system, whether it was the California system, whether it was the federal system or whatever, it sounds exactly like 2 guys who did service overseas or in a war. Because when people get together, they'll be like, "Oh, where were you doing your time?" And you Beaumont. Ooh, bloody. When were you at? Was it bloody Beaumont or was it after that? And guys will start cutting it up and telling horror stories. And the difference is, right, the guys that come back from battle and tell those stories, everybody loves them. The guys that get out of prison basically are hated, and we're hated before we go in. So those people it's a different kind of friendship. I don't know how to explain it.
It is.
It really is. It's a different kind and unfortunately, and I'll ask Russ, if he's ever experienced this, but a lot of times you get out and you meet people who you think are the same kind of people, and you just get blown away at something that they do or something that they say that is just so out of line or so disrespectful, and it just would not happen inside. Nope. And I'm not saying inside's better people. I would cut my hand off before I'd have to go back to prison. But it's different. It absolutely is different. It's hard to explain.
It really is. I mean, if you have that one friend that you grew up with from like 2nd grade, and today, and they're solid, and you do anything for them, multiply that by 10, and then you'll know.
Yeah, true story.
Yeah.
Kristen Melinda says, did my mental health therapist training in a women's prison. I was super naive and wondered why they needed to be RDAP. That's the residential drug programs that they have in prison, drug and alcohol. So it's like being in rehab inside of a prison. And her supervisors explained there was dope all over the place. I'm telling you, every prison's got junkies in there trying to kick. Wine a little bit more says Suge. You ever hear the computers try to say that guy's name? Like all the AI stuff? Suge Knight. Suge Knight is doing a podcast. How's he doing it is an excellent question. When I was in, you got 300 minutes a month. Recently, I did a podcast with a guy that got out after I did, and he said that now it's 500 minutes a month, right? So that's a lot more time, but it's not a lot of time. It's not like his calls are going to be 15 minutes, right? And then he's going to have to wait at least 15 to 30 minutes before he can make the next call. It depends on what kind of custody level he's at, whether it's 15 or 30 minutes. But you just can't pick up the phone and dial another call. If that could happen, fist fights happen. Right? Yep. Any prison that allows that, the phone becomes a battle royale. Because one guy will get on there and be like, no, I'm going to call my wife back. This is my wife, right? We're in the process trying to get divorced. I'm not, people fight. Right. It's really ugly. Squirrel Nut Zipper, you're not getting on the keyboard tonight. She likes it because it's warm.
How many people have died for
telephones?
Yeah.
Telephones or television remote controls.
Yeah.
You're not turning off this football game can get a guy killed in prison. I promise you. People do some really stupid stuff. You're not getting on the laptop. Squirrel Nut Zipper. I'm telling you, she is on one.
I got Lily right here asleep. She won't move.
Well, Squirrel spent Squirrel's like, I do an hour show. Contractually, there she is. See?
Yeah.
She's all hot and bothered because we only usually do an hour. Yeah, it's a good kitty. There you go. You can chew on the cord. She likes chewing on the cords. It always makes her happy. Please don't, not the ones that are plugged in. That wouldn't be a good idea.
You're right. Here comes mine now too.
Yeah, right. So I another reason to dread holidays. The inside, there's nothing worse in the entire world inside than holidays. Absolutely the worst.
I did want to talk about this Menendez thing real quick.
No, absolutely. K2 scared the heck out of me. My long-term boyfriend from 2004 to 2013, off and on, had an awful K2 habit. Ultimately, our relationship ended partly because of it. It's like having somebody that's doing PCP.
Yes,
right. It's like having somebody that's getting dusted because it's a dissociative drug. They go way the hell out there. So tell me give me what your thoughts on the Menendez trial, because I am fascinated.
I think if they're haven't really followed it that much, but I've been hearing this and that, like mainly from you and other places. But people have to understand, if they get any charges dropped or anything like that, they're going to be sentenced off the timeline that they were charged, from that time period. Like I told you in that Masterson case, they're going to go back and sentence him to those guidelines. So if they even come back with like, okay, we'll give you a 30-year bid or 40-year bid, they'll give them 40 years and they haven't been in for 40, they'll get out right away. Because back then it was 50% gave for day.
Old law. Yeah. Old law. Yeah, that's what they do.
Do it.
Yeah.
They'll walk right out. They can get.
I believe they're going to. I believe it's a political thing. People say why, but that's such a great point. These kind of things happen all the time where you'll be doing time with somebody and you're not doing the same time, right? No. Like he's getting 50% because he was sentenced under old law, and now they've pushed it up to 85, and it's like you're doing 85 and he's doing 50. That makes inmates dicey. They file paperwork on that crap all the time. That's the kind of stuff that gets people filing.
Yeah, when I went in, there were lifers, and they first started going to parole after 7. Start getting parole dates.
Yeah.
And then they put it up to every 10 or whatever they're doing nowadays. I don't know.
The in the feds, it's funny because they did away with the parole system a long time ago, right? But there are still some guys that are on old law who go to the parole board. And I had a cellmate that would get dressed up and I'd say, you excited? And he's like, yeah, it's the 24th one of these. He's like, I'm gonna die in prison, bro. He's like, this is just the way it is. And he came home like this, dude. I'm like, no way. He's like, I got it. He was not, honest to God, he was not happy about it. No. He'd been down like 38 years. He's like, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do.
You're so programmed. You're institutionalized. You don't know. It's like off that Shawshank. I mean, they'll get that way. PTSD. They'll violate just to come back because they get 3 hops in a cot. I mean, they don't have any worries.
There are people like Suge Knight in his podcast. He said, "Man, ain't nobody freer than me. If I want to go lay down and go to sleep, he goes, I don't have to do a damn thing. Everything is paid for. Everything's covered. I got no pressure, no bills, no nothing." I thought, we view prison a little different. I mean, I guess it is something that, you know, they're paying the bills, but not exactly what you'd call lush.
Yeah, he'll still
So what
make
kind of
money.
dog is that? What kind of dog is that?
Lily is a toy chihuahua.
a toy chihuahua? Yeah.
Toy
That is,
chihuahua. She is purebred. She's been DNA'd, so she is adorable. She's at her highest weight. She's almost 4 pounds. You could tell by the muscles she has. So yeah, she's a toy chihuahua through and through.
you're absolutely right, Deadhead. That it says it's a sin when people have been there that long. You know what's funny is one of Q's mentors was a guy that when Q first came to prison, this old white dude. He seemed. I mean, he was old at the time. He was really old by the time I got there because Q had been down for 20 some odd years. But this dude was in my unit, and he while I was there, he collapsed out in front of his in front of his cell, right by the cell door in the housing unit. He just dropped, and the cop came over and put the pads on from the automatic external defibrillator and shocked his crap. And they got him, put him on a bus and sent him out, right, whatever, and got him a pacemaker defibrillator and brought him back. And he was like, "You sick SOBs."
Right.
He's like, "For real?" He goes, I caught parole. I was laying dead on the floor. You got to bring me back to life. Do not let me out, right? They filed a compassionate release after that. Compassionate release paperwork. No love. And he died in there. Bummed Q out something fierce.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's so
it's pretty
sad.
ugly
It's
stuff.
sad. They bring you
It
back
really
to
is.
life to make you do that.
Right? I mean, how nasty is that as a concept? Nah,
It is.
you know, we're not letting you go. Thank you, Kristen Melinda. I really appreciate you. Love all of you being here. I'm going to let Russ go to sleep, people. This man works around the clock.
Yes, I do.
I appreciate you hanging out with me this late, my brother.
Thank
Next
you.
week, we're going for a 4-person panel.
That'll work.
Russ will be here, but we got a couple of other people. So make sure you're here next week. Really appreciate all of you. Between now and the next time I see you, reach out and try to save somebody. Squirrel nut's being somewhere rotten.
Now she won't come around, right?
Yeah, she's not.